little bit of issues this morning. Hold on just a second here. And let's see. There we go. Wow. That is a busy picture, but it's fall oriented and that's fine. My camera is not the best quality. This is from my older camera. My new camera isn't working right now at the moment. So you're going to have to deal with a very fuzzy picture today, which I'm totally fine with. Really, I want to hear what you guys are, doesn't matter what I look like. It's information that's being presented today. So if I'm a little fuzzy, I'm a little fuzzy. Hello, Ashley. Hi, Rick. Very happy. Pam's good to see you. I'm trying to see if I can get Daryl from Arkansas on with us. I sent him an invite, but I'm not sure. I'm going to send him another invite and see if he can come on and can figure out how to get on here with me. We haven't actually run through a dry run this morning. I just got back from running errands in town, so I'm not flustered. I just had to shift gears really quick. So I'm going to send him another invite and see if he's going to join us. I will let you know that had a really fantastic morning. I was preparing for this conversation with Daryl today, and as we were going to discuss the word law, he has a wonderful repertoire within him regarding the Aramaic language, and that's why I wanted to have him on here with us, is because of the repertoire that's within him of that which he's already experienced. As the sacred languages, as soon as you start engaging in them, especially Aramaic, as that's really the divine feminine portion of it, it makes such a difference. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the change that happens within, especially when you can marry the divine masculine, the divine feminine within as it manifests on the outside. It is so fantastic. So, Steve, I'm glad to see you here this morning. It may just be me this morning. I'm hoping I can get Daryl on. If not, we'll have to figure out how to do it some other way. I'm going to try one more thing here. I'm going to try the invite one more time. Let's see. Theodore, did you maybe ever look into runes? No, I have not. I've had people ask me before if there are other things that I've looked into. And, honestly, when I started finding how intimately the Hebrew and Aramaic languages was really speaking to me, as soon as that happened, I stopped looking everywhere else. It didn't seem necessary for me because there was so much information that was being presented through the language that there was no reason to go look anywhere else. Hopefully that makes sense. I mean, when you find something and you can commit to it and so much fruit becomes manifested in your life, you really don't have a need to go anywhere else. Because what I was finding is that a lot of times the things that I was seeking was just, it was more for this. And I didn't realize how important it was to be looking for the things that would affect me right here within the heart, within the sacred space of the heart. Because in affecting that and changing and transforming that, everything in the external world began to see different. I began to see it differently, experience it differently, interact with it differently, especially with all of my relationships. So I think that what I'm going to do, I'm bummed out that I don't have Daryl with us, but that's okay. We're going to get this figured out. But I am going to start talking until he joins. I sent the invite to his email several times, and maybe we just missed on time zones. I don't know. But I do want to share some information with you, and maybe this is good. Maybe this will be a good, strong foundation so that I can get him on later on in the week or perhaps next weekend. Actually, I'm going to be talking with Brandon next weekend, so we may have to do it a little bit more in the future, maybe 2 weeks from now. But let me talk to you about really where we were at and the things that we were discussing. I broke down some verses, and I'm not going to be going into the minutia of them. But I wanted to share something with you that Daryl brought forward, and it was an answer to prayer for me. And the reason why it was an answer to prayer. Oh, it says I can't pair after the event has started. No, I know you can, I'm not. Don't try to pair, Daryl. We're not doing any pairing. Just pull on the invite, because yeah, it says you can't. It says that you can't pair. So let me try it again. I'm going to send it to you one more time. So Daryl's in our chat room with us. So he's been trying, faithfully been trying to get on here. I'm going to send him the invite one more time and see if you should be able to now, Daryl. I just sent it to you again, because it's not with the pairing. Pairing is something that they're offering where you can like connect your channel so that we could be simultaneously streaming to multiple platforms, so it's not just mine with Facebook and with YouTube. And I don't even know if Facebook is on today right now, but I know we are streaming on YouTube. So anyway, as Daryl, hopefully he can join us soon. I'll give you a little bit of background of, I was really excited to connect with Daryl just for many reasons. It's a gathering season. We're all coming together, but he actually brought an answer to prayer for me. Oh, and he's here. Good. I'm so glad. Well, we can talk about it with him on with us. So hold on just a second while I bring him on. Hey, Daryl. Shalom.
Hey, blessings. How are you?
It only took us, like 8 minutes to get you on. That's fine. The other day, actually, I was with my friend Kendra yesterday, and it took us like 15 minutes for us to figure everything out. So we're doing better today. Only 8 minutes. Half the time.
Well, your second link, right? The trick, it wouldn't let me pair the first time. So
yeah, no, the pairing it's a neat option that they're offering now, so that you can connect with, if you had your own channels and things like that, we could be simultaneously streaming to multiple platforms. So I'm glad they're doing that, but I haven't been able to figure it out. So I'm just glad that you're here with us today. Yeah. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going on your background and background story, because I really want to focus on the nuts and bolts of stuff that we were discussing the other day, right? But can you share a little bit about how you got brought into Aramaic?
Yes, absolutely. Just quickly, I through a couple of little Bible colleges, and that led me to get everything figured out. And but 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, an older gentleman that we were in connection with through the church that we were going to at that time, he said, well, actually, I teach a little Hebrew. And it just something sparked in me, said, you got to take this opportunity. And so I did. And of course, he's not a gentleman that speaks the language fluently, but he knows the structure of it, and he knows how to teach it. And so me and a handful of other people, we went on this little adventure with about a 14-month period, and it changed everything for me. But at the time, my family life was kind of getting a little harsh, because the things that I've been pursuing and trying to be led by the Spirit frustrated everybody around me. And so I kind of just dismissed Hebrew because of some things I found out I thought was not anymore, because I found out about the Masoretes and how modern day Hebrew, taking it out of the pale. And the way I see it is these ancient languages they're not auditory, they're actually visual first. And that linked and resonated with me because of the way that we see things, our third eye, the pineal. and that's our connection to source. And so I kind of started resenting Hebrew because I started learning about the spell of spelling, and it
Right.
it manipulated all of us, and casting spells over each other because of from spirit. And so at that point, but then I just kept digging into and the spirit just started leading me to new people. Introduced to Dale Allen Hart, everything for me, even though he was like way out there for me at the time. Yeah, of course, that makes sense. Yeshua spoke Aramaic, so, and then I got a hold of a book that isolated him as being Syro-Phoenician, and I didn't really agree with this behind it. It taught me a lot about who I believe Yeshua, or Ishu as I call him, actually was. So long story short, I ended up every time Dale Allen Hoffman started coming up with a new word and a new idea, because it's just like Hebrew, all this knowledge behind each idea, I don't way more than that. It's so much deeper than that. And I knew it. I could feel it. And for the first time, I'm studying it actually resonate with me. It wasn't so much about what I was learning in my head as the way and that was my introduction to heart. And so I just proceeded from there, and then I got to go visit where he lives, and that was a game changer for me. And I just kept proceeding to learn Aramaic as it was given to me. I found out that there may be 50,000 people in and I knew there was something special to all this. And then I met a man named Steve Conover. Steve, if you're there, and
I saw he was on here earlier. He might still be with us. So.
Yeah, but Steve had, with this little podcast, every time he would put something out, it would just punch me upside the head. It's like, got to dig deeper, keep going.
Yeah,
it's okay. And like, no matter what your job is like or your family life, none of that. Just keep digging. And
that's right.
So then I was a little book that I it's really hard to come by, but it's called the Khaboris manuscript. I mentioned it to you.
Yes, you did.
I mean, that's opened up everything as far as. And then into this notion, not long ago, thanks to you and I'm a firm believer in the template life itself, which is father and mother, and which is masculine and feminine, and that is the lens through which you should view everything. And it's really the key. At first, when you think another form of duality, but it's actually the opposite. It's actually our path in our heart to becoming one, and to be one with the one. And so now all of a sudden I revisited Hebrew and fell in love again, and the Aramaic came alive. That was like the Hebrew introduced me to the Aramaic, if I can say it that way. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where I've been ever since. And so I just deal with, I mean, I'm not a linguist, so I'm not learning languages that I'm going to speak to anyone. but single words and phrases, it's way more than I could ever hope for, because it's like every bit of it's life
I would
changing.
agree.
Every bit of it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And so
Yes. Some slow internet connections on your side and my side. Interesting.
and I don't, yeah. So did I lose you at any of that?
You lost a little bit.
Are we
You
still?
were saying about how these languages is such a life changer, and then it dropped off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the languages have ended up being the difference between who I thought I was and who I am and who I'm becoming. And
Yes.
so that's where I'm at today. So I'll ask you, what did the Spirit show you to like that?
Today, well, it was
Yeah,
going off
yeah.
of our conversation that we had regarding the law about the
Okay.
Uritha or Orita and Namusa, and
Now,
I
now,
found, yeah, I found three verses that contained the word Orita, and I decided to look at them and dig them out. And then I pulled up one verse regarding Namusa. So, just so that everybody can kind of track with us what we're talking about here, is that there is, and they even make room for this in the Peshitta. And I found this really interesting when I went and looked to compare Namusa with the Urita, because they put Urita law as a capital L, but Namusa was a lowercase l.
oh, that's
So a
fascinating.
capital
Yeah, I
L,
think I can.
I know,
Yeah,
versus the lowercase l. So they
yeah,
were
I can.
distinguishing it as set apart as the law
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
Namosa, which is Greek, right? So
Yes, it is.
for people who don't know this, yeah. So people who don't know this, one of the most startling things, and I've talked about this before, and you've probably caught this too, Daryl, is that in the New Testament, the word Torah is not there for something
No,
that is so
no. Torah.
foundational.
Torah. Well,
The
that's
word Torah, as in law, is
because
not there.
Torah. Yeah, that's because Torah, modern application of the concept. You see, and the concept is the mental state. Okay, whenever it talks about the oreta is the feminine. So the oreta is literally of the Creator Himself, and
Exactly.
that's to be understood. That's why is it's nothing but a religious concept, because if your heart is one with the heart of our father and mother, then what is wrong? Period. You don't want to hurt their heart, and you don't want. So that's when, as because that's literally what it's been ingrained in us, is to think of the law, the threat of, if you won't do what is overseer, and this all authority. That's our priority. The church to throw the authority off either on the government, and they're good, mindful people, the authority and the law, because they don't want to be paying for that. And I think, and they've turned by using. I know this is going to offend a bunch of people, but by as their catch-all, their get out of jail free card, what they're saying is that getting that monkey off my back by saying that the law of God is literally the namosa, not the oreta. And the truth is the oreta for it to be complete. And if it is complete in you, then you don't even think on these terms. You're not your own authority within your being. You are a sovereign of yourself.
Exactly.
Live.
Exactly. Yes.
We don't need a government. We need out to be. And if you, because there's only one that Abba Amma is expressing to all of us, that he is simply this: be responsible for your experience.
Yes.
That's what we're supposed to do.
And
everybody wants to project time. And everybody wants to somebody else, and everybody's got their own little set of namosa. They're all about that, and it's all external, which is the masculine, and that's what's really key, to be honest with you. And until you go deep diving into your own heart, you gotta all of your experience outward is your experience inward.
That's true.
So without.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
exactly.
I did a lot. I think
I find it's
everybody is go ahead. I was just going to say that I think everybody is thinking of this in the wrong light, because they don't understand the concept of law and what actually was being presented issue, which was there's a huge difference in what we have in our head as the concept of law and what is convenient rule. A rule is a ruler. It's a measurement of how you exhibit, and then to another Aramaic word, which is milta. Milta, the action that you take as a part of your will. And so if your milta is not combined with the Creator, then you're in separation. And that separation is what you go with your ego and go with the masculine, so that the law becomes something that you can actually control or mention, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So everybody is approaching authority. They're approaching government. All these things by of that, instead of realizing all of this is resolved if you just flow with the spirit of life, and you can in it. That's the beauty of it.
I have some thoughts.
Were you going to say?
We move on. I was going to say I have some thoughts before we move on regarding everything that you just shared. I'd love to be able to bring some of those in as well, and then we can continue moving on it.
Go ahead.
The word Torah, it's interesting because as you speak it phonetically, has the word light in it, Torah. And because the Tav, when you take a look and see what the root of that word means, it's like to point out, to teach, instruct, to shoot like an arrow, to flow as water, right? And so flowing as water always takes the path of least resistance. And so for me, because I'm seeing this in the external measure and the internal measure, I'm seeing that these teachings are meant for us to flow freely and not have anything stuck within us, so that those living waters can go in and through us without getting stuck in energy centers. And Torah, because it has the Tav added on the prefix of it, we are talking about mother's teaching, which then does teach that divine masculine principle. So I'm just
Yeah.
kind of catching people up if they haven't heard this concept before. I'm validating what you just said through what the letters are communicating to us, that the Torah is
Yeah.
meant to bring forth life, but mother helps us
Yeah.
in the external orientation. So that's why when we begin to see, we haven't learned how to govern ourselves yet. So mother helps us governing
Right.
over us until we can control and tame some of the things that become unruly, because we haven't learned to instruct our heart yet. So it's
Yes.
like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to be safe with other people so they can be safe around you, which then creates an environment, a sheep pen. It creates an environment for you to go in that is safe, so that you then can turn and explore the inward environment, realizing that it is your very own inward environment that is creating your external. So it's interesting how it comes from the outside in and then from the inside out, from
Yep.
moving from mother's teaching into
Yep.
father's teaching, because that divine feminine comes in the teaching of the Aramaic, because then we get into the place where father begins teaching it. And the whole purpose of that is to go within and deal with our shadow. So when we're looking at the Torah, and then we're looking at Orietta, we are looking that now Torah, the Tav that was on Ora. So guys, think about this. I want you to connect some dots here. Torah, take the Tav off. You have the word aura. Okay, what is your aura? What is the light that's emanating from you? Okay, that's Torah. When we get into Aramaic, it becomes orita. So now you have your aura that has been given power. The Tav is on the suffix, which means now you've completed the journey of the Father in becoming one. So you have to have both of them to understand what's going on. And one thing that I wanted to share with you on this too, Steve, is that the other day I was looking at the word sod, because in a Hebrew mindset, there's like 4 different layers of scripture. And it's like the Peshat, Ramirez, I messed up on this the other day too. There's 4 levels. The deepest level is the sod. And when you look into that word, it actually talks about communing with other people, not only just yourself, but creating a place of intimacy. So when we share these deeper truths, it is so that we can foster an environment of having intimate relationships with one another, so that we just don't stay on the surface. Because many of us don't want to stay on the surface anymore. And that's when you begin deep diving and allowing these languages to massage the heart, that you're creating intimacy within, so that you can have it externally with other people. And that's why with the Torah and the Orita, you take the 2 with the divine masculine and feminine, and now you have intimacy within, because they have become one.
Right. Yep. That's it.
That's the mystery.
It is. It absolutely is. It's what the Jewish mystics were trying to convey to each other, but they couldn't release it to the world because the world wasn't ready. So but notice that just on an energy level, you're talking about if you talk about your energy body, the foundation for that is it's an electromagnetic world that we live in. The mind is electrical, but the heart is magnetic. But you can't one or the other. You have to have both for it to be electromagnetic. But the basis of this is Torah, which is Torah.
Oh, that's so good.
Of it.
Oh my God,
that's field
so
is
good.
Nation is of this realm or reality, the 3-dimensional realm. Until you are able to embrace this and find that pairing, not in concept, but in reality, the way it actually is.
That's right. Right.
then you don't fully get to the fourth. You'll never get to the fifth density.
No.
So, but you've got to understand that you're every level of what our experience is in this 3D experience is the torus field on every level. It's all around you. It's every little molecule of you. We are not just atom. We are atomic. How this works, and electron going around the nucleus, and that's all this. It's all connected, and but something mentioned to you and I thank you so much for catching on. I didn't even really have a direction when I talked to you the other day. It was just like coming out of me all of a sudden, but I thank you for kind of responding in a way that it triggered so many different things. And I started digging in the Khaboris like I have, and man, I got so many crazy things I could share with you. It's unbelievable. But
well, here's what
I was
we're going to do. This isn't going to be the only time that we're going to talk, Daryl. I'm going to have multiple conversations with you. Like today, I want to focus on those three scriptures that we were talking about. The only place that the Yorita is mentioned in the entire New Testament, because I was looking for it. And there's only 3 spots now that I was able to find it, and I really discussed that. And then in the future, then we will look at other topics because of you digging in the Khaboris Codex, because there's so much that we can talk about. I mean, it's just these words. Once you really get the concept of them in here, like you said, it is a game changer. It is a life changer, and these revelations are so profound that it shifts you.
Yeah, it's progression. We deal with Matthew 22. The next game, the next concept, for lack of a better way of saying it, would be you got to understand about the nafsha, or nefesh in Hebrew. The nafsha has. I remember in Bible college them teaching me about nefesh, and all they blanket it with soul. They just say it's your soul, but nobody ever would actually go to the lengths that are possible to tell you how that relates to your being, what you actually are as a result of being a soul. Well, that's nafsha, and once you start digging in the Aramaic, you find out, oh my gosh, it's a whole different world in relation to who and what you actually are, and because that is the connection between you and all of your experience is the nafsha. And so I'll just read these verses right quick. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment, pokdana, in the law, namosa, as we talked about? Then Jesus said to him, you shall unconditionally love the Lord your God, Allahah, in your entire mind and with your whole nafsha, and in all your actions and in all your thoughts. This is the greatest commandment and takes precedence over all. But then he says, and the second, which is like unto it, you shall unconditionally love your neighbor, karabach, as your nafsha. Now, the interesting thing about karabach is that it is not your neighbor as in the guy next door. That's one thing of it.
Having some internet connection issues again. So give it a second while it gets caught up. Oh, and he popped off. There you are. Hold on. Hold on. You actually popped off for a bit and then popped back on. So I'm not sure. You were talking, where we left off was about your neighbor and distinguishing the difference with neighbor. That's where it got cut off. So if you can kind of up from that point.
Yeah. So karabach is literally whatever That's what you love as yourself. And so what that does, obviously, is it keeps relationship with the very existence around you. Everything that is around you that is real, it keeps that relationship. So you're being true to everything that what we call God already is. And you're connected on a level where you're just a part of that flow. And so it's really important to understand that. You're not meant to just live a bunch of rules that somebody came up with, which are just your actions outside of yourself. That's what children do. Children are asked to live by the rules. That's why the scripture says that the law is the taskmaster of the child. Well, that's namosa. So if you plan on growing up and being a full-grown person in the spirit, you're going to have to get away from that. You're going to have to grow beyond all that. Your experience is going to have to expand and become so much more. You have to reach for it. No matter what you think your level of understanding is, you have to reach for more than your experience outside of yourself. And the only way to do that is to go within. It's the path. It is the narrow path. And so then he finishes that up with, upon these two commandments hangs the law, and its, which is van vanveye. And something to note about this is what the Spirit told me about that, said that the law, the way of life in the Spirit, and it's not about a bunch of rules that works according to the mind of Christ, literally. But then you have prophets. What did they honor or revere above all else? What became God to them? Their law. Vinamosa was and so that, and the way they define it is externally as passed down from Moshe. That's what they identify it as. And what it is a bunch of children. I mean, look, times they kept messing up. They were told how to live, what they wanted to do. So then there were polls, like when the men were dealing with the wives, or things like that. So they were who rebelled against the rules. But then what happens when the heart shows up? Prophets who were expressing the heart of the Creator. What did they do to the prophets? They killed them. They killed their own heart. And that's why when Ishu, he has this big old drama going on that he's not sure. He actually wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. All he could be responsible for was his own and the way that he would experience, and that he was the will of Father. It wasn't that he gave up his own will so that Father's will could be done. He did say, yes, not my will be done, but my Father. But all he was expressing in that moment was that my nafsha is so complete with Father that my will has become seat to Father's will. So whenever I walk this, I know that both of our will be complete together, because, as he said, that's how he became one with him. And that's understanding what the law is so critical for us. It's the key for us to be able to relate to, whether you call it God, source, creator, whatever you call it. You can relate to it as just a force, but you're cheating yourself, because what you really crave is intimacy with the one who not just made us and started our whole existence, but actually is us. You want to love
Right.
yourself, and you
Well,
cannot
and then
love others.
This translates to us having that same connection with other people and our environment, right? So, we first approach it in getting rightly connected with Creator, right? That's what starts it. That's that spiritual gravity that begins to pull us forward. But that's not the end all be all, because it's
Yeah,
becoming and merging the two into
yeah,
one on the inside, that then manifests externally to
right.
all the relationships in the entirety of creation, as in creation itself, as being divinely unified.
Absolutely.
And so that is why it's important in the masculine and the feminine procedures. The what will
Yeah.
keep us from doing that, however, from what I'm seeing, this is just from my personal experience that I'm speaking here. What I have seen that has kept me, so I'm gonna point it here. What has kept me from doing
Mhm.
that is externalized everything. So, in other words, when I have taken even the languages themselves, or the narratives that these languages are written for us to read, when I have externalized them all instead of internalizing them,
Mhm.
it will never ever, and it has kept me separated from the original intention. And that's why with Orita and seeing that word, Aleph Avresh, Yod Tav Aleph, looking at that word itself was so fascinating for me to see this, of the internal element of what Creator has been trying to communicate to us, but we have been so densified that we were not able to receive, because
Yes.
we've been densified in those lower vibrations, living out of those lower chakras, and barely scratching the surface of the heart chakra, that we could not receive the higher celestial law. I'm using that
Yes.
intent, that on purpose, because that's something that my husband is discussing for, and has been for a long time, that we are doing what we can to bring forth celestial law and not the Nemosa, that there is a higher
Right.
law of oneness, unity, that is
Yes.
calling us forward to engage in that. In fact, I
Yeah.
was going to say something earlier when you were talking about Miltha, because that word Miltha, which is word, right? The form of it in
Right.
its root is Memlamed. And when you take a look at that in a Hebrew aspect, that means to be filled,
Mhm.
to be filled. And so, since it's the root, sometimes
Yes.
you see it written as the root, but then all of a sudden they have the Tav Aleph added on the suffix side. So if the word is to fill you up, what is the purpose? Why is the Tav and why is the Aleph added on the suffix side? Well, it's so that you can be completed in the divine feminine portion, which is directly connected to
Yeah.
Father, so you can
Yeah.
become one. And so
Now,
seeing those things is like, we can discuss these, but this is where, like, for me, I get super excited about the minutia, because I'm one of those
yeah.
people that have always asked why. Why? Okay, so we want to be filled up with the word. Well, why do we want to be filled up with it? Is it to puff this up? No, it's to
Right.
expand this. Because Tav, when it's spelled
Right.
Tavav, it means exempt from judgment. Well, what judgment? The judgment we place upon ourselves and on others.
Yep.
Because when
There
you
is no
enter into
blame. There's
oneness
no shame.
unity,
Right.
no,
That's right.
zero, zero.
It's
And that's
where.
such a profound shift, because we begin living from here instead of from here. It's a
Uh-huh.
game changer.
Right.
Nothing is the same. And
Here
that's
is ego.
what I've seen with the languages. They automatically press you into here, because
Right.
here's what I found too. And you may have seen this and maybe you haven't, but I've seen this because I've been working with a lot of people and trying to help them get into the sacred languages. because it drives you inward, if you're not ready to go into that inward journey, it will spit you out.
That's right. And you do it to yourself because
That's
you
right.
believe that this and that's not
Right.
you.
Right.
That's not you at all. Yeah, the one that you're looking for is the one doing the looking.
That's right. That's right. That's
So,
right.
but you don't explore that. You have to go. The only way you can possibly, even remotely, get close to discovering that that is you is when you stop eating from the tree of duality. You
I
have
know,
to
right?
stop it.
That's
If you
right.
don't, you're choking on somebody else's concepts. That doesn't just because you heard it from somebody who you authority. See, you got to stop with authority and go with your own. Creator doesn't even get in the way of your choice. Why do you? It's sad.
Yeah.
It's not supposed. It doesn't have to be at any level. You can't have
So
true
I'm going
relationship.
to interrupt you for just a moment.
Yeah,
I've
sure.
had several people suggest that maybe turning off your camera will help, because you're cutting in and out, and they're not being able to
Oh,
understand what you're saying. So if you can,
okay.
for now, because I don't know, our internet connection is really strange today. Like mine is going in and out, yours is going in and out, and so we may just need to cut our cameras off. Let me see.
Yep.
I don't know how to do it on your end. I can do it on my end.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just a
I
second. I'll
went
get that done.
ahead and did it on my,
Okay. I
and
get
then we'll
that now.
see if it's not cutting us out. Because I don't want people to miss what we're discussing here. Because this is some very important
Right.
concepts. Hence why I wanted you to come in and have us begin this dialogue with each other, this conversation.
Okay.
I don't know what it looks like on your end to be. There we go. Oh, you just cut out. He just cut out. Okay, well, I'm sure he'll jump back in. Well, while Daryl is, hopefully you guys are hearing me a little bit better because I can see my internet connection is weak, but hopefully you're just hearing my voice and it's not cutting in and out. If you guys could let me know, that would be great. Because right now I've got full bars, but I've been going in and out. While Daryl is coming back on, I wanted to share with you guys here from the words because you guys know, those of you who have been watching our channel for a while know that I'm pretty much a geek when it comes to looking at the letters themselves. So hopefully he'll pop back on. I'm going to have to try to send him another link. So let me do that really quickly. Hello, Tina. It's good to see you, my friend. I love it when you're on. Okay. I'm going to send Daryl the link one more time, see if he can pop in, figure out how to do it without the camera on. So let's take a look at, I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to show you what I felt was important for us to look at some of these verses. Okay, here we go. What I am seeing, so this is the one in Aramaic. This is Dr. Etheridge's translation down here. And Yeshua said to him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy Eloah with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength, and with all thy mind." This is incredible when you take a look at it through the letters. Absolutely incredible. First of all, one of the things I wanted to point out to you is that we have the word racham, and racham has to do with loving kindness, but it also has to do with matrix. It has to do with the matrix. And the womb and the matrix itself. And so it's really, really fascinating when you begin looking at that to see that this is what we're talking about here. And when Daryl was talking about, the Torah with that external masculine orientation, that's already showing us here. It's showing us the external orientation through the divine masculine while we're in the matrix itself. But what I wanted to show with you that was so fascinating for me in here is that many of the words have a cough added on the suffix side. And now it looks like it's in its risen form because of the way the transliteration is in the Hebrew. But when you look above in the Aramaic form, all of these Kaf, all this letter Kaf is in its fallen form. And why is this significant? Because the Kaf means to tame and yoke the unruly, to grasp a hold of the power. And because it's in a fallen position, it means empty your cup. Empty your cup. So when you are looking at the word God, for example, here's the word for God. It has a fallen Kaf on it. So because it's on the Father's side, it's telling you go within and empty out that which you think God is. And then when it talks about other words like your heart, you need to go within and empty out the things that you've put in within there, within your heart and with your soul, emptying it all out. And with all of your strength, emptying out all of your strength. And with your mind, emptying it all out. Because what we are doing is we are grasping a hold of the things that are not of this matrix world, that are not of the things on the external, but we are grasping a hold of the power on the inside through the things that which are hidden. And I thought that was so fascinating to see that letter Kaf was added on the suffix side. In that position, I would have never guessed it to be there. But it makes a lot of sense because in our external world, as we're navigating through it, there is so much of it that has filled up our mind and our hearts and our souls that are keeping us from grasping a hold of the true power that comes from that which is on the inside of us. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that there, Daryl, from what I just said?
No, that's beautiful.
It's okay.
No,
It
actually,
surprised me. It just really surprised me to see it there.
Yeah. The thing is, I want to give you an example of something the Spirit showed me was because of our translation of scriptures, issues that the Word of God is God. That's what fundamental Christianity teaches. I believed it for 45 years. But the word, almost nobody I've ever met actually knows what that means. And there's, I think it was Bart Ehrman who showed that there's over 14,000 discrepancies in the New Testament alone. So, how can it be a perfect written? But what most Christians are saying is that it's perfect, and they don't realize it's perfect in the masculine, externally. They hold in their hands. And they think that, and so that gives them authority, is then they interpret it, and then they form an opinion from it, and then they get to say, yeah, but that may just be my opinion, but that's the Word of God. So then they think that that's backing up their opinion, and it's backwards. It's not. It's definitely not the way. To be learning from the scriptures is not from your head, but from your heart. It doesn't even matter whether it actually happened literally or not. It's irrelevant. What is your takeaway? And so there's a scripture, Matthew 12:34, part B. It's actually false. It does not say from the abundance of the. It actually says, and you can only know this through an Aramaic, the excesses in the mind cause the mouth to speak. That's way different than the first. So I used to say that you cannot judge how to the Creator based on a handed you externally, handed you a sense.
Correct.
You are going to
Right.
have to figure out, every single person's going to have to figure out the authority. If you're going to talk about authority, you've got to talk about authority in yourself. And it is for your, if you, then you're going to be gullible towards whatever in the moment, and you're going to be all auditory, and you're not going to visualize the truth, because that's how the Aramaic works in your mind's eye. That's what the crux is. And so people, I don't have any condemnation for the path you're pursuing. If it gets you closer to the Creator, and you can honestly say that and at the same time, you're not standing in condemnation to everybody else. Guess what? You're going down a good path. Chase it until, but in condemnation towards anything or anyone, and your nafsha is not at peace with everything, all masculine, you're all external, and you have to meet the Father, because the mother's probably sitting there.
That's exactly
screaming at you, please.
Yeah.
Ishu said, what did he say? It's the judged. When in actuality, that word there is condemnation. It's to condemn. Don't condemn. Or it just says it. It's not like grasp at something that you can't understand. When you cast that out to anything or anyone, condemning yourself. You're drawing that to you. You are, and the only way that you get by with that is because you refuse to deal. And I say that with complete love in my heart, because that's what set me free. That is a truth that I will always hold on to, and because I know it is true. You know, this issue of how could Ishu forgive anybody before he actually went to the cross, if the way that the order that they have it in actually happened. If you couldn't be forgiven until you pleaded the blood of Jesus, how can he say your sins are forgiven you? And he would say your sins are forgiven you. He didn't say I forgive you. He said your sins are forgiven you. Why? Because you received the forgiveness. You received it.
right.
That's not hard. So people they would go through these mental gymnastics because somehow they think that they roll or a say over actually goes, because they don't actually understand that you're never going to fully grasp the depth of at some point. Your relationship with the Creator is always based on the pinnacle, which is trust. That's and if you can't trust anything real, sorry.
Well, and this is the way I look at it too, that word trust, because this was something that was really heavy on my heart about a month ago, is that with the word trust, it's batak. So the very first letter of that is a bet. And it's already telling you that it's inside. Mm-hmm. And then the tet in the middle is a letter that is like a discussion of the wrestle on the inside. And then the chet about separation, but yet it's the hidden letter of life. So when you're wrestling on the inside with the trust issue, that is really you. If you don't trust you, you don't trust the Creator.
Right.
And that is a very
that's
piercing moment when you really recognize it and become intimate with yourself and become truthful with yourself, realizing that that is the element. If you don't trust yourself, you don't trust the Creator. If you don't trust the Creator, you don't trust yourself, because you are one and the same.
That's right.
And that, I am telling you, that really broke me, because I was having issues like with finances, and always feeling like I was in lack, or I was having to control the outcome or control how finances were going to be generated in my life, always running and chasing around. And I had my friend Linda was saying, well, that's because you don't trust the creator. And I'm like, wait a minute, how do I, and then I start arguing, ego rises up, religious ego rises up, spiritual ego rises up and says that is not impossible. That's impossible because I've given up everything to be able to pursue this. But when I got honest with myself and I sat in that quiet place and I began to look inward, it broke me in a beautiful way. It pierced my heart. The word broke, I don't use that to say like breaking me into 1,000 pieces. I mean, it pierces my heart in such a substantial measure that it allows me to see to a greater degree that which I didn't see before the piercing happened.
Yeah. Yes, it's clearing the vision.
That's right.
You have to stop
and the
listening.
difficulty, I wanted to answer a question that somebody had said, and then I'll have you add your take on it as well. In the chat room, I'll show what the question was. What do you think of authority concerning children? And many times I have shared, because of the Hebrew concept of the way children were raised, is that mother would raise children in the way they should go, through that divine masculine principle, external orientation, up until the age of 12 and 13. And at this point, you would know this phrase, bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, which means son or daughter of the commandments. And this was actually a place of graduation where they would be now responsible and accountable for their external actions. You're now in the age of accountability. And we've heard that much in the Christian church, but nobody explained to us, what the age of accountability was. They didn't even know where it came from. But this is a very, very strong Hebrew concept. So when mother is raising a child, so again, you've got the spiritual aspect of mother and father, and then you have the natural aspect of mother and father, right? So mother is teaching that divine masculine principle, external orientation. Father is teaching the internal orientation of the divine feminine. And it has to be that way because they have to teach from a place of neutrality and balanced energies.
Yes.
So mother can't teach mother, father can't teach father. They could, but it would not be in a balanced equation, because the whole process of what Daryl and I are talking about here today with the Torah and the Orita is for us to find single-mindedness, complete wholehearted balance in a place of neutrality, having escaped and being delivered from duality.
Yeah.
So then what would happen once you would graduate from mother's training and rearing, you would then be turned over for father to instruct you through the divine feminine, where he would begin to nurture you and take you into the inward journey. And this is truly where the full education comes, because father would have you start tuning into your own heart.
Yep. What's the best example?
What really instructs you.
What's the best example of that? It's when Ishu goes to the temple. The temple was in a land that was foreign to his. Did you realize that? He was raised by the Essenes at the base of Mount Carmel.
Right.
So he was one learning the way. That's what he spoke of, was the way. Right. But then he went to the temple because what he was doing, he was having his bar mitzvah. And he was 12 years old. He was the oldest. So he went at 12 years old. And so he goes there. He did not go there to put on some kind of razzmatazz and show how much he knew. That never even crossed his mind. It had sense in that whatsoever. But he goes there because he wants to bring and introduce to a people who are lost in the childishness of the Namosa, and bring the Oreta, so that he could say, let me reintroduce you, and this is the gospel, to reintroduce you to father and mother. That's why.
Exactly.
Let me show you who my father and mother are so that you
That's
can
right.
decide for yourself.
So
That's
that
why.
we can all become family.
Yes, this is the principle of the entire universe. That's
That's
why you
right.
have.
Now, that's exactly right. And this is where we have gone so sideways by not bringing in both father and mother. One of the
Yes.
things that my husband's been sharing, and it makes so much sense with his compass teachings, is that, if you go right into father without having mother, mother's aspect is what is really learning or keeping you in this place of this taming and yoking and getting the ego diminished. When you go straight to father for power without having authority over your own ego, you are in a place where you are serving yourself, you inflate the ego, and you inflict damage on other people because you didn't go through the right progression of mother into
Absolutely.
father. So here, like in the Christian church, it's like we're going to direct you to the Father all the time. We're going to keep having you seek the power of the kingdom, the power to cast out devils, the power to raise the dead, the power to do this, the power to do that, without having the nurturing qualities of what mother is trying to bring in. And there is no family. There is no unity. There is no complete restoration because you are out of balance. You sought the power that came from the Father without the maturity that was needed to wield that power in meekness. It's such a big, I'm not going to say, I wanted to say the word mistake, but then I'm in the place of judgment. What I want to say is that we have learned much through the experience of what it has been like without having mothers, right? Without having mothers rearing first. Because then what happens? Then there's no responsibility or accountability for wielding the power in an immature stature.
Yes. Even if you're raised without the mother and you have to play catch up, you're still not held as a victim.
Right.
You're still your own experience. And
exactly.
But follow what we were just saying. Think about Ishu's experience. He remains in the temple to finish what he was asked to do in that moment. And guess who shows back up? Because in the caravan, he's not with us.
That's right.
They come back. And his mother, the feminine, says, "What are you doing? Didn't I raise you better than this?"
Right.
And he says, don't you know that I must be about my father's business?
That's right.
Yes, because at that moment, the feminine is acting in the masculine, and he's trying to point people other.
Exactly.
And
so good. Daryl, I'm telling you, it is such a blessing to have this conversation with you. My husband and I talk about this stuff all the time, but because you've been involved with the languages, I know that you see it so beautifully well as well. And it blesses my heart to be having this conversation. It really does. So thank you. I'm serious. I did want to add something else when you were talking about the way, because this was one of those other nuggets that I found in Aramaic that I was so excited about.
I knew you'd bring this up.
Word is so amazing. Okay, so in Hebrew, the word is direct, right? It's direct. It's dalet resh kaf. So it's like the door that you go into. It's like a well-trodden path. Is a door that you go into to deal with the weak and feeble part of your heart, the poor and destitute part, to raise it up. But you got to empty your cup out in order to do that. Okay, now this is divine masculine here. When you get to the Aramaic word, it's orak. It's the first few letters of this word is the word for light. So the way of light. is oneness, where you get pierced in your heart
Yeah.
and connected, and you are raised up, and you choose to empty your cup out, because now what are you doing? You're walking in the way of light, through the
Yes.
masculine in the feminine, becoming one. Oh my
Where,
gosh, that is so beautiful.
where there
I
is
mean, I
light,
that
there
was
can
those
be no darkness.
That's exactly right. And so mother graciously takes your hand to walk you into the shadow, those hidden places
Yes.
that father's trying to get you to look at on the inside, so that there
Yes.
would be no darkness left. It's
Yes.
all rendered into one beautiful way of light and life in oneness unity, void of duality. You are no longer separated in light and dark on the inside. You have
Right.
become one, unified. And it sure doesn't take much light to eliminate the darkness.
That's right. All it takes is one good light to dispel
That's
it.
right.
Yeah, the direct is what opens up how you're supposed to proceed.
That's right.
Mother
The
first
walk in the
shows
light.
you that. The mother shows you the straight in the gate to show you the narrow path. What is that narrow path going to? You have 360 degrees, and only 1 degree is going to get you not to the outside, but
The
center,
inside. That's
the
right. 0
inside.
point.
Mother
Yeah.
tells you stop dealing with what is outside of you,
Yep.
that only she can show you, and she shows you the way. That's why Ishub said, I will leave one who will comfort you in this.
That's right.
And she
That's
says,
right.
this is the place that you walk to. And guess what you're going to find, Father? This is the gospel. This
Exactly.
is the way. This
Yes.
is the way.
Exactly. And this is why I wanted to have you on, was to be able to bring forth some of these beautiful concepts, so that we truly could comprehend what
Yeah.
the Torah was, the Orita, the way, the truth, the light, and being able
Mm-hmm.
to fully be brought forward and introduced to Father for really the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a very profound now. I am Toda Rabbah immensely over, um, where I discovered, I have been asking, um, I know that we will not remember our names that define us. That is for
Right.
outside of this experience. I
Yeah.
realize that. But I
Yeah.
was asking Father, Mother, what is it that I am called to be called now that I am not the man I used to be? And my name is Daryl, and Daryl means beloved of God. And or that's one way of seeing it. And so I asked earnestly, I've been asking for some time now, what is my life become? And I heard Mother say, son, it's been there all along. And I was like, what do you mean? What is your middle name? My middle name is Lane, Layne. And think about it. There's my first name and there's my last name. And the lane is the way to my heart.
Ah, that's
And then
perfect. That's
I
perfect.
said, so then how do I do self? And the Spirit said, you are, because this is like a little obsession of mine about the way. I can talk about it for hours. Um, I heard her say, you are a way seer. And that is my title.
Wow.
I am a way seer. I don't even pretend to know what all that means. I just know that it feels good.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful. So grateful. So,
Well, being able to see the way, I mean, that's wonderful, Daryl, because if you don't know the way and you're not seeing it, how can you
yeah,
ever go there if you can't see it?
exactly.
And then
Yep.
being able to see the way, oreka, right? The way of
Hmm.
light, the way of love in oneness unity. That is why you're able to express it, because you see it and you are walking
Yes.
on it. You are walking
Yes.
on that path.
Right. Absolutely.
So I appreciate you.
Walking down that lane.
That's right. Exactly. And I think it's interesting. It's a beautiful concept too, because Dorek and Oreka, they are meant to be well trodden paths,
Right.
you
That's right.
know, and I believe that's where we're
Yes.
heading into, because the narrow path, they say, that be that there that find it, right? Well,
Yes.
but we know that it's meant to be well trodden. So if it's a well trodden path and only few find it, that means the few that find it are going to be instructing and teaching the way, so the others can make it a well trodden path, not something that hasn't been found, but something that was pointed out and directed to, because there are those that did it and have become it. And they can say, walk
Yes.
this way. Walk
Yes.
in the light. Walk
Yes.
this way.
Yes.
And by
Yes.
the
And
way, I did want to
amen.
respond. I know, I wanted to respond here. Anders made it a point, and I love this, and so did Hoon. The way, that's Christ. It is. It's the Mashiach, it's the Christ anointing. And
Yes.
so Buddhism and Taoism, they all point to the same truth. And even the
They do.
Kabbalah, the middle
Yes.
path is called the path of the arrow, and it also
Yes.
is the path of mysticism. Mysticism is divine experience, or
Yes.
experiencing the divine, and it is
Yes.
the way, and it is the way of light, and it is such a beautiful reality that when we can truly connect to it, we can see how all of these beautiful teachings are coming together as one teaching. You know,
Yes.
when I was in the Christian church, you know, they were saying, be aware of the universal teaching, be aware of the universal church, right?
Yes.
That's not what we're talking about. We are not talking
No.
about a universal church.
No.
We're talking
No.
about
No. No.
a way of unity that is
Yes.
universal, a way of oneness, not a church building, not a government over you, not like what Daryl and I were talking about with government and all of that kind of stuff at the beginning. We are talking about our own sovereignty into oneness unity, where we are walking together as one.
Yep. That's it.
Is so amazing. It's a complete different thing. And then what does that do? It keeps us from being at that place where we divide ourselves from all of
Yeah.
these beautiful sacred teachings that have been sharing the same exact journey that has been there all along.
Why don't you just go ahead and make your way through the garden to that tree of life and find out what you've been missing out on.
That's right.
Do it.
We've been
Try it.
eating from that tree of good and evil, of duality, for far too long. The beautiful side of that is we have so many experiences that we can extract the wisdom from it now.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, I've
Well,
got
Daryl, I'm
something
not going to
the
keep.
surprise I was.
Go do it. I was going to go ahead and like start winding things down, but surprise,
No, that's
I am
fine.
like all for it.
Okay. Well, Dale gave me one of the most blessed gifts I've ever received, which are key things like the Aramaic prayer of Yeshua, the Beatitudes, the Magnificat, the two commandments of Gospel of Matthew, and the Gospel of Yochanan, the first chapter. And these are transliterations of his own, and it's the most beautiful things I've ever gotten in my hands. And so I thought you might like John chapter 1, at least the first part of it, according to the way he interpreted it.
I would
Listen
love
to
that.
this. Before the beginning, there was Milta,
The word.
and that Milta was with the absolute only being. And Allah was that Milta. This was before the beginning with Allah. Everything existed through his hands, through the extension of himself, and without him not existed of the things which have existed. Within and through him was the life force itself, and the life force was the conscious light, and that light shines through the darkness, not comprehend or overtake it. And the Milta descends into flesh and dwells and amongst us. Amen.
Through and amongst us.
And amongst us. Yes. Is
That is
not
beautiful. That light of consciousness that dwells in and through and amongst us. It's a beautiful thing about the word becoming flesh when we understand, and that's when I was sharing that before about being filled up. Emlamed. So in the waters of chaos, we then get instructed about the covenant of oneness through the word, so that we can be filled up with it. So it is in and through us and amongst us because we become it. We manifest it in the flesh. We saw it walked out in the life and the way of Yeshua and what he was teaching, what he came to bring with the mother and the father, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and us being able to walk it out here in the world and being a demonstration of that to the world in doing the greater things, because now we completely comprehend why he came, the message he came to bring. And it may be 2,000 years later, but we're now seeing it begin to be manifested and walking amongst us once again.
Absolutely. Well, you
Dale,
think that's a good cutoff point?
Daryl, yes, I do think it is. I'm looking forward to going. I have not spent any time with Dale Hoffman's information. I saw his YouTube channel. I just recently subscribed to it. So for me, it's going to be a new thing to be introduced to somebody else that has had so many years understanding of this language. And it's probably time for me to be able to venture in. Although in my personal excavations, it's been the most wonderful, most amazing, thrilling journey of my lifetime in self-discovery, having the Spirit with my husband through it on our own, to have this wonderful gathering coming together of the many who are doing it as well. It's beautiful. And I really appreciate you coming on here today, Daryl. I so appreciate it. And sharing some of the beautiful nuggets that you had to share. And I look forward to doing it again. We are most definitely going to do this again, because there is so much more that we can talk about.
Oh my gosh, yes. So much more. I know you. I've watched you enough to know that one letter even.
That's it. One letter, one word, and there's like champagne going everywhere for everyone to just be able to join in and get excited.
Yeah.
There we go. Popcorn too. Popcorn, bubbly, whatever you look like. I'm not saying that as like a champagne drinker. I'm just how champagne goes everywhere and bubbles, they make you tickle your nose. If you want it to be a can of soda, it can be a can of soda as well. I don't really care. Anyway, thank you so much. I love you, my friend. I can't wait to have more conversations with you, both public and private, as we can continue walking from my heart to yours. I love you. Ahava to you. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Till we meet again.
Until next time.
Yes.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.